If you are looking for quick and easy dinners, including a recipe for how you can repurpose your leftovers, then you are going to love today's video. First up, we have this like Asian teriyaki inspired beef with noodles. So I'm just starting out by browning my ground beef, and then I'm going to drain that once it is completely browned. And then to season the ground beef, I'm using some coconut aminos. You can use soy sauce if you prefer, whatever you have on hand or whatever you like. Then I'm going to add in some rice wine vinegar. I was not using a recipe, but I will link one down in the description box below that is similar to what I'm doing. I kind of took from it a little bit, but made it my own. I also drizzled in some sesame oil, and then I'm using honey to sweeten. It's a local honey instead of using brown sugar. Then I went ahead and seasoned it a little bit more with some garlic powder and then some onion flakes, but you can use whatever you prefer, what your preference is, and then a little bit of ground ginger. Then you just want to toss all of that together to combine, let it cook for a few minutes, and then season to taste. In the meantime, I went ahead and prepared my healthy noodles. I got mine at Costco. These are dairy-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, fat-free, everything free, and it's only 60 calories for this entire package. You do want to make sure that you drain them and rinse them really well. You can eat them cold or you can heat them up, so that's what I'm going to do for this dinner. So I just went ahead and combined a little bit of olive oil with a touch of that sesame oil, and then once I rinsed my noodles, I just patted them dry with a paper towel and added them into the pan. And then I decided to season them with a little bit of garlic powder, some of the onion flakes, and then a little bit of the ground ginger. And I also added in some coconut aminos, and that way it just kind of carried over the flavors from the ground beef. Now, if you didn't want to cook with these, you don't have to. My husband ate his over some white rice, but I love these. To me, the texture was really good, and it is definitely a new favorite. Next up, we have this Greek shrimp. It's actually called shrimp Saganaki because Saganaki is a word for like the pan that the cheese is actually cooked in, and most people just associate it with cheese. But for this, I'm just going to take some shrimp that are peeled and deveined. I'm going to add in some olive oil, some minced garlic, and then salt and pepper. I just gave that a good toss and I set it aside while I prepared the sauce for the dish. So for that, I'm just going to heat up some olive oil in my pan, and then I'm going to add in some diced onion, and you just want to allow this to cook so the onions can soften. You're not concerned with like getting them really caramelized or browned or anything like that. You really just want them to soften up. Now, this was our first time having this dish, but my husband and I both loved it, so it's definitely going to be added into our rotation, and so I will have this recipe linked in the description box for you down below. Once your onions are softened, you just want to go in with some minced garlic. I always say measure this with your heart. I think the recipe calls for like 3 cloves. I use like 4 or 5. And then some red pepper flake, and then also some oregano. And I'm just using my hands there to kind of crush that oregano into the pan just to start releasing some of its flavor. And just give that a good toss. And then the recipe calls for white wine. I did not have any on hand, and I was not going to go buy some for this recipe because we don't drink it. But I went ahead and just substituted that with some Better Than Bouillon chicken, or you could do chicken broth or chicken stock. So I went ahead and added that in, and I just cooked it for a couple of minutes to kind of let that reduce slightly before going in with the crushed tomatoes. Now for the tomatoes, you can use a can of crushed tomatoes or a can of the diced tomatoes, whatever you prefer. And then you're going to add just a touch of honey. And this is not going to make it sweet. It's kind of like how some people utilize a pinch of sugar just to counteract the tartness of the tomato, but you don't taste it. You want to allow that sauce to simmer for about 15 minutes, and then once you've let it simmered, you're going to add in the shrimp, olive oil and all, give that a good toss, and then you're going to cover this and then let it cook on the stove for 5 minutes. And then I almost forgot, you also want to add in some parsley. I didn't have fresh, so I just used the dried parsley. But like I said, cover it, cook this on the stove for 5 minutes. And then after that 5 minutes, you just want to give it a toss. You can see that the shrimp are perfectly cooked. They're nice and juicy. The sauce has cooked down even more. And then this is where you're going to top with feta. I'm only doing it on part of it because my husband is not the biggest fan of feta, but I'm telling you, even if you don't love it, I would try it. To me, it just made this dish. It was amazing. And we just served it over some rice, but you could serve it over pasta, or even those healthy noodles would be a great option. Next up is some beef fried rice, and this is one of those recipes that was like, I have leftovers that I don't want to let go to waste, but I also want something new for dinner. So I took the other half of the onion that I had left over from when we made our shrimp Saganaki, and I just diced that up and then added it into my pan with some olive oil until it softened. While that was cooking, I went ahead and took a bag of frozen peas and carrots out of my freezer, popped that in the microwave to cook according to the package directions. Once the onion was softened, I just added in our leftover white rice and the ground beef from the first recipe in today's video, and then I broke that up. Then I added in a little bit of butter. If you've never done this when you've made fried rice, do it. It adds like a silkiness to it. It is incredible. So I just added that in, let it melt down, and then I'm seasoning mine with some garlic powder and some ginger. If I had dry mustard on hand, I would add a touch of that too because that's a personal favorite. I know everyone has different fried rice recipes, but I really love mine. So if you want to give it a try, I would love for you to do so because it is really good. Then you want to go in with your soy sauce or coconut aminos and give that a good toss. And then I'm going to add in a couple of eggs. So after I've stirred that well together to combine, I'm just going to create a little well in the center of the pan to add our scrambled eggs into. And I just did 2 eggs for the amount of rice and meat that we had, but you can do as much or as little as you'd like. If you don't like them, you can leave them out. But it's actually one of my favorite parts. I am always trying to come up with different ways to use up our leftovers. So when we thought of doing this fried rice, I was so excited, and this ended up being one of my favorite meals from today's video. It really was that good. So I highly recommend that you give this a try. I don't have an exact recipe to link for you in the description box because I kind of just do it by sight, but once you have your eggs cooked, you're just going to go in with your frozen peas and carrots. You can use any vegetables that you have on hand or that you like, and then give that a toss, and then this is ready to go. This dinner literally took maybe 10-15 minutes from start to finish, so it was perfect for a busy weeknight. But I really hope that you enjoyed seeing today's video and that you give these recipes a try. If you haven't done so already, I would love for you to subscribe and join my YouTube family. I am so excited for all the videos that I have planned so far this year, and I hope you have a wonderful day.